Welcome to another episode of First Light, the show where we explore personal and professional transformation through powerful conversations with inspiring leaders, innovators, and change makers. I'm your host, Chris Keller. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Dr. Ken Gray, a pioneer in integrative medicine and a respected holistic physician at Jupiter Medical Center. With over 2 decades of experience, Dr. Gray has bridged the gap between Eastern and Western medicine, helping countless patients heal not just their bodies, but their minds and spirits too. Let's step into the light with Dr. Ken Gray. All right, I want to welcome Dr. Ken Gray. Dr. Gray, for those who may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, definitely father first, big family, raised 7 children under our roof. So I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was introduced because we have a kid in class together, and I know you're a local physician here, and unfortunately, we hadn't got to work with each other much, but got to know each other through our children. So talk about what you do at Jupiter Med and your focus.
Well, I've been in healthcare for over 30 years in some way, shape, or form, from assisting in chiropractic to physical therapy, orthopedics, and then obviously going back to school and doing what I do now, which is I'm a Doctor of Oriental Medicine, acupuncture physician. I've been doing that for over 20 years on staff at Jupiter Med for almost 20. Have my office in Jupiter for 20 years and a proud resident, and I love it here. I've traveled a lot for work, which is especially late in the last 5 years ago, we started an app called Vail Health, so I'm a co-founder of it, and you can download it on vailhealth.com, Vail for very well. So we are promoting wellness through a 5-pillar approach, and that's your mind, body, your supplements, your food therapy, your fitness, and your care. We are chock full of a lot of media. So there's a lot of interaction that I have to do with different providers, different content providers in every one of those pillars. So if you download it, you'll have tons of, thousands of media, hypnotherapists and yoga therapists, and there's audio recording. So there's so much to be said. And chefs, recipes, which I love cooking. I'm an author of a cookbook called Health and Balance. Can't buy it right now. Hopefully a publisher will find us. So I did that about over 10 years ago, co-authored that with Carol Maglio. And then I would say as a Doctor of Oriental Medicine acupuncture physician, I've always been a holistic practitioner. So even under that umbrella of education, I've always wanted to take care of the whole person. And I've wanted to be known as an integrative person or practitioner, meaning that I would be help to, when I can't do everything, who can do everything, I would also learn a lot about other specialties. So I know the best neurologists in the area, the best, urogynecologists and gynecologists and ophthalmologists, all the ists, and I try to be aware of that so that, I work well with other doctors and surgeons for the benefit of the patient. So I'm a patient-centric physician and gatekeeper for not only my patients, but their families. So I have a very family-oriented practice, which transitioned to creating a very family-oriented app, right, in Vail and company, which if you go on there, you'll see all the physicians and the executives are people that are not only investing time, but have helped us to be the company we are. Other than that, for over 12 years, I've had Maximum Health Radio on NPR, and that has been fun. I've interviewed people from all over the world, so there's hundreds of shows, and that's available via all podcasts, Maximum Health Radio with Dr. Ken Gray. And so a year ago, I decided to add a visual component. And that visual component is Maximum Health Road to Wellness. So I get on a motorcycle, different one each episode. Of course, I started the first episode here in Jupiter. And I got on my old Harley, it's 15 years old, my baby, and rode and did Hannah's Home, which is phenomenal. I did Modern Jews, the very world famous Loggerhead Marine Life Center for turtles and research. I did Food Bank, House of Hope, I was confused if it was Place of Hope or House of Hope. Please forgive me. But both the hopes are great. All the hopes are great. And Tide House, which is a restaurant. So I try to always feature different forms of health and wellness in different locations. We have just finished our 6th episode in Georgia, which we rode from Atlanta to the Blue Ridge Mountains and featured, cryotherapy all the way to shooting clays at Nututla Farms in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and Bear Claw Vineyards, and a retreat. So I can't say enough about that journey. And the 7th episode is going to be in Hawaii in a month. We're filming on May 31st, which, obviously podcasts last forever, but that will be 2 weeks from now, from me recording this with you. So yeah, it's a full life of full of a lot of healing, a lot of sharing of healing. People always say, like, how do you do so much? To me, it's all the same, And when I'm not doing any of those things, I try to get some painting in. And I've exhibited as an artist longer than I've done anything. I've been a painter of art, and people collect my work, so it keeps galleries like Onésimo Fine Art occasionally showcasing my art and selling more of it. And then I have commissions, and I think that's more for me than anyone, but it's nice that people do purchase it and hang it in their main rooms and, of their homes. And so I don't know. I think I've covered some of what I like to do.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. And, let's start on the healthcare side, because obviously you have the entrepreneurial spirit. You've built this amazing business on the side as well as practicing medicine. And in my journey, as we've talked about, I focused on the Power Five: my mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and financial well-being. And for me, a lot was on the physical. I had to lose a lot of weight and started exercising. When I started running, I'm 200 and probably 30 pounds or more, and I'm putting all this pressure on my muscles and joints and things that I never used before or hadn't used in a long time. And so I went down this physical fitness journey, and through that, I've added specialists. I do chiropractic care and different things to take care of myself. So talk about really how, holistic medicine and transformation and transforming your life, transforming yourself to really be at your top of your game in each of those areas. How much holistic medicine really plays a part of that?
Yeah, it's become such a word and phrase that is rolling off people's tongues, and it kind of takes a different picture and perspective depending on who's saying it and who's hearing it, right? So when I use words like integrative and holistic, basically it takes a team, it takes a village. And so what you're sharing with your transformation and what you believe in is that your village is all these different facets of how you maintain your life and wellness. And I think that's the same for all of us. It's just that sometimes we don't really know how to assemble that team. And so what I try to do with my patients and those that come across my path is I try to share at the right time, because you have to be careful. Not everybody can absorb knowledge and awareness and consciousness and change and health and wellness and all those things at the same rate. So my job as when you say doctor, the first doctors are teachers. So you have to know that before you do anything, you have to not only understand what you're dealing with a patient, but in understanding, you're going to have to teach in a way that they can understand and that they will benefit, right? So I'm not the type, I never get on a soapbox. I'm always approached by the news and magazines and newspapers over the course of the years, and I'm happy about that, but it's never, it's, my job keeps me humble because I'm dealing with people a lot of times, sometimes life or death, or they reach that fork in the road and I'm their last option, their last hope. And, I never walk in the office any day or into any room with a patient and feel like, oh, I'm a know-it-all, because the most I can be, and that goes to your spiritual component of the 5, principles, is the most I can be is share in that healing process, right? And it's a mutual process. So I would say holistic health is very important to me, as well as my patients, because a lot of times by the time they come to me, there's no one answer. They've already tried the one answers, and the one answers are generally symptom-based. answers. So they've taken the medication for this symptom, the pain or the this or the that or the discomfort, and that stops working. They've done the surgery to cut this out, and that doesn't, answer the problem. They've taken the medication to suppress their feelings so they don't feel the sadness or the grief, and that stops working. So you see, it's all they've already done the single pathway. So when they come to me, they need a whole approach. They need something that looks at all of those things and heals them simultaneously to help bring them back to a balanced whole person, hence the word holistic. And so as far as if you're asking about me, yeah, I have my team members. I do my combination of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu and the yoga, which is very big for me. Tai Chi at the beach, meditation, prayer, reading my devotionals, playing with my kids, hanging out with my wife, watching funny movies, drinking my share of wine, occasional bourbon, and a cigar. So for me, balance is a different picture. Yeah. I don't recommend it to my patients. Because I know my life and what my joys and the things that add my vices, right? So I wouldn't say to someone, oh, you have to drink or not drink. I would say, you look at the picture, you look at a person, you look at the things that bring you joy and also how to balance it out. I don't eat during the day. I juice. So people go, how do you do that? Well, I wake up, maybe I'll grab a handful of nuts and dates. I'll go train, do my jiu-jitsu, my yoga, what have you. And so I need a little protein, but then the rest of the day I'm juicing. I'm getting juice from the local juice bars and like Modern Juice, which I featured in my first episode of Maximum Health, and I get the Dr. Ken's Super 6, which is carrots, beets, ginger, kale, lemon, and apple. I'll get a pipe cleaner, which is your cucumber, celery. I add a little cayenne. There's some kale in there, some lemon. I'll throw some pineapple and some chia seed for the little omegas, and I'll do a wasabi shot, which is ginger and wheatgrass. So these are things that I do throughout the days of my week. On the weekend, anything goes. I'll do like a Sunday breakfast, where it's the only time of the week that I'll do eggs, for instance, and cheese and all those things. Sometimes on Friday we'll do a pizza, or just so celebrating life, enjoying life, balancing it out. But during the week, like I said, I juice, and that keeps me clean, flowing clean, good energy, light, energized. I don't do caffeine, so that's how I manage my energy. And some people, I tell them I don't do caffeine. How do you stay awake? Well, I don't bombard myself with heavy preservatives and heavy foods, So at night when I eat and I relax and I have my glass of wine, not too long after that I'm going to sleep because I deserve to sleep well. So that's my personal. That's not what I'm professing to be the way. Like I said, each patient's different. Each holistic approach is different. And a lot of times, like I said, they're coming to you when they're in extreme pain, so you got to deal with that pain, and that's going to be done through acupuncture and diet and sometimes supplements and all those things. That I don't sell anything, but I do recommend things. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm a personal injury attorney, and I've had lots of clients over the years go to chiropractic care, and but I never myself subscribed to it. And now that I've got into this physical fitness journey and had my fair shares of dings and bruises, I've gone to chiropractic care, and it's really made a huge difference for me. And now I'm a huge proponent of chiropractic care. I've also had acupuncture, which again is something I never thought much about because again, I was the lifestyle I led didn't really tend itself to it. So talk about the benefits of chiropractic care, acupuncture, the diet, and more importantly, kind of what you talked about is sleep and how important sleep is to taking care of ourselves. So how some of those different disciplines really can affect your mood, can affect your...
Jeez, it's amazing. I mean, I'll start in order because you said chiropractic, acupuncture, and sleep, but, obviously those are just some of the many wonderful things that we can do to help ourselves and balance ourselves. But chiropractic, yeah, big fan. Like I said, I think my first job in health was an assistant to chiropractic, so I've always been a big fan. When I speaking about Brazilian jiu-jitsu, there's sometimes I'll do things and I'll pull a rib out, I go to my chiropractor. So that's one of my team members too. You pull something out, you got to put it back in. There's no way around it. right? You can, I can put a needle all I want, but if it's out, it needs to be adjusted in. And while I've learned adjustments, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to send them to the professional who spends their life doing it. And likewise, I also appreciate those chiropractors who, decide they're not going to do the weekend warrior acupuncture thing and do like your certification and try to do that. Stick to what you're good at. Send them to a licensed acupuncturist, right? So I think staying in the lane, and I think there's like the dry needling. I'm not a big fan of that because people don't do well with that, and then they poo-poo acupuncture because they think they had it. No, you didn't. You had dry needling. And so each of these professions have so much to offer when they're done by a talented, caring person, right? And my chiropractor is a female, and she's just as she does muscle testing, she uses the tools, and she goes straight to the place and does it, and then I'm good for a long time until I do something else stupid. So yeah, big fan of all of that and how the alignment of the spine and keeping things in place and all that, and then of course acupuncture tends to be, people tend to view it as a pain-oriented treatment. And that's fine. When they come, I explain to them, all pain and disease is linked to the blockage of energy and blood flow. So therefore, my job, in essence, as a holistic physician, is to remove the blockages, wherever they may be. And that might be multi-layered. So your pain and disease may be, back pain, but is that coming from also kidney chi deficiency, so a deeper internal thing, with the bulging disc or herniated disc, with an SI joint that has arthritis, with a piriformis muscle, what has been stressed and sprained, and a nerve blockage, a sciatic nerve, which is now shooting down your leg. So there's all these things you have to investigate, which is so different than your typical orthopedic, which is going to look at your spine. Oh, there's a bulge in it. This is it. Let's shave that. Let's cut that, or let's inject it. It's a different thing, and they all have their place because sometimes you got to shave, cut, whatever, inject, in extreme cases. But, I appreciate the tiered approach. So having your team, having the chiropractor, having the acupuncture, knowing the place of them, that's going to come with education. And that's, one of the big things about the Vail Health app is care is one of the aspects of that, and care providers have a portal to connect with their patients. So we've created both the Vail Care Provider and all that. But the reason why is because people generally don't know unless, like you did, like I've done, like some of the people we know, have the privilege and opportunity through their professions, through their means, to experiment and to grow. Most people don't know how to put all this together. So that's what we did in creating that. One of the many things we've done. Sleep is important because, and I would say natural sleep. A lot of people are so quick to take medications, and unfortunately there's an aspect of that which affects the dopamine centers. So the long-term studies are showing aspects of dementia, early stage, and all that. So let's be careful. Obviously there's extreme cases where you may or may not need that, and that's outside of my scope. I can only tell you that this data is out there, and you may want to read about it before you go getting addicted to those sleep meds. And I'm a big fan of saying, hey, there's a lot of practitioners that used to prescribe that and now prescribe cannabis. That's not going to create, addictive and all this. You take it a little gummy before bed. Maybe it's more CBD. Maybe there's no cannabis in it, and no THC, I should say. There's cannabis, but not THC. There's cannabinoids. And so you don't get high, but it does relax you and help reduce inflammation, all that. So there's no drugs, there's no anything. So there's all these options that are more natural, and that tends to be where I recommend ashwagandha for sleep. I recommend chamomile for sleep. I'm not a big fan of melatonin because a lot of my patients will say they take that and then they wake up groggy. So I'm more in the teas area personally. And then, of course, a good reading of a book instead of watching something that's going to, like the news, that's going to keep your mind going. So managing your mental health and staying more positive and reading positive things, that's going to help relax you and feed your intellect and your spirit while you sleep. so you can sleep more peacefully, so you don't have dream disturbed sleep, so that you can go into that REM and heal. Because when you sleep, your body heals. It restores bone, it restores joints, it flows, it inflames a little bit, and it's a check system that goes on. So if you don't get that deep sleep, you're actually cutting into your ability to heal. So yeah, hopefully we went through all those questions.
Well, and the last part of all this is how much nutrition really plays in how you fuel your body, how that really affects your mind, body, soul.
Yeah, nutrition is huge because, and like I said, I mentioned that one of the 5 pillars in Vail is the food therapy. So most people don't think of food in terms of therapy, that it can be a healing agent to your body as you input things into your body, into your biochemical machine, right, carrying us through life, that they all have purposes, and the colors of them, the shape of them, the taste of them all speak a language as to what organs they go to and all that. And there's a seasonality even to it. So that's what I had written about before in Health and Balance, and have practiced for many years as part of traditional Chinese medicine, and Ayurvedic medicine has a component of that. And there's a lot of old medicines which nutrition is more than just calories, fat content, fiber. That's one way to look at it. It was very sort of Western, there's difference when you say, okay, I'm feeling inflamed, and we're starting to get into this idea, okay, well, let's make a soup with some turmeric and some ginger or something like that, or some zucchini if you want to go towards that area of flavor, which can be reduce inflammation. Or I want to eat some pineapple or papaya to help with inflammation and digestion, and how all of this works. Springtime with the greens and healing the liver, a wood organ, and versus winter, which is kidneys and water organs. And so all these things they're there, and there's information on it, and how food and nutrition is so important. Because you might have, like I said, a pizza night, but when you wake up the next day, maybe you do some juice and you help with all this, you balance it out, because you've basically eaten something that's very damp and acidic and phlegm causing. And now you want to clear that up with some greens and things that take away phlegm, like ginger and turmeric and all that. So there's a nature and property to foods. And so learning that, or reading about it, or seeing someone like me that speaks to that, it's going to help you learn to balance your life, so that, if you eat this, then don't eat that. And if you don't eat that, then maybe you need to eat this, and so forth and so on. So
it's amazing how it's all so interconnected, and I've found that through my journey, that I can do so much on physical fitness. I can go out and run, I can bike, I can swim, I can spend the time in the gym, but if I'm not also careful about what I eat, and the other things I do, it really all comes together.
You can work out all you want, but if you don't eat right, and that's something to be said about that. And also times of your life, and like I said, seasonalities. Not only this is a different season of your life that you chose to do this in, and there's a reason for it, right? I mean, when you were younger, you were able to
bounce back a lot easier.
Yeah, and then now you kind of have to maintain that rhythm a little bit better.
Well, let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey, because all the amazing things you've done in developing an app, and hosting a radio show, and everything that you're doing with the streaming, and you're riding the Harley, and all the amazing things. So talk about your entrepreneurial journey, and how you kind of branched off into all the things that you're doing on the kind of the business side of the house versus just the medical side and seeing patients.
I mean, the thing that comes to mind is I've said no a lot more than I've said yes. I could have been the guy that opened up shop and started selling a lot of product, and opening up more shops and doing that. And I just always said no to that. I've always just wanted to be that quality-based healer. I've always operated more of a concierge kind of style before that was a thing. Never did insurance. I never wanted a bunch, line around the corner of people waiting, and just never talking to them and never seeing them. So I've definitely done more quality effort-based healing than quantity. So doing that, and then saying no to all these other ventures, and then finally having this opportunity to scale what I do, or multiply what I do through an app and a company based upon wellness and health and engaging physicians and all of that. It was a great opportunity due to meeting my business partner and head of tech, my Michael Jean over in California, and then hiring great people and working with a great advisory board, which, they came on and supported the efforts, and all the physicians, some of them local, some of them not so local. So I think, to answer your question, the entrepreneurial aspect came out of just filling a need beyond what I could personally fill. So, and to do that, I had to learn and expand and grow myself into that space. And I'm still doing so. Because, the best thing I can do is surround myself with people that are smarter than me, that also appreciate the vision. And that's really what I've been fortunate enough to do and create with Vail. All the other things are same. The radio show came out of a desire to bring some more positivity into the world and a different view of health and wellness, because typically before I did Maximum Health, almost every radio show was some holistic physician or other physician or doctor selling or hawking some kind of supplement, or some new concept of don't eat this, or some elimination diet that, and it gets old after a while because it's more the same. So I believe that everything is food. Everything we take in is food. So I wanted to show, that whether it's your wonderful photographer or artist, they're putting wellness and health into the world and should be acknowledged for that. Your congressman who's bipartisan, that's actually working for the people, elected by the people, working for the people, doing a good job, has a legacy of that, should be spotlighted. And of course, your physicians and your doctors, your Harvard, your Cleveland Clinics, and all those people have been on my show. But your environmentalists and people fighting for civic liberties and for the population during climate change, and the scientists in NASA fighting for awareness and documenting where we are and showing us so that we can make changes. All that's healing. And so that's what I wanted to do with that. So I just filled that gap. I just went out and started talking to these people, and as I spoke more and shared them the shows, other people came, I'll be on your show. So that's really the premise. So yeah, I'm not necessarily becoming a physician and having my practice and doing co-founding Vail, and all these things are filling needs of healing. And same with when I started Maximum Health, Road to Wellness. The motorcycle's cool, and having a different motorcycle this episode is attractive because you go to a different location, different motorcycle. You're speaking to that. They call it throttle therapy, which one of my shows I just did, I was on someone else's podcast, Zen Gems, and she said she called it throttle therapy. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I get it, because when you're riding, you're mindful. You should be anyway, because I was taught never get on a bike mad. And when you're on there, it's not them, it's you. It's your job to watch everybody out there. It's not their job to watch you. So you're always alert. And then when you're cruising down the beach or through, canopied trees and all, and you're smelling everything, you're doing a countryside or a ride through the valley in California or in the Blue Ridge Mountains up and the temperature changes about 10 to 20 degrees, and you feel all that. You're in all of that. And so that itself is therapy. And then so I wanted to bring that to the screen, and I wanted to bring all this physical aspect of interacting with people and interviewing the people that I've done, but in their element, to the screen. And so that's really how that was born. So yeah, I like the term entrepreneur for what it is, and bringing things into, birthing these things in business, but it wasn't done with this sort of intention of business. It wasn't done in intention of filling a healing, a health need for the world that will hopefully last way past my current existence.
What's some of the lessons that you've learned in kind of growing this brand and this business? Because, a lot of us go to law school or go to med school, and law school, I will promise you, didn't equip me to run a law firm. I've scaled my firm from, it was 3 of us and 1 assistant now, to close to 80 people. And nowhere in law school did they teach me how to do that. And so it's been a lot of learning on the job. So talk about that journey for you and some of the lessons that you've learned from kind of growing this now separate business.
Oof. The first one, actually, one of the first one goes back to what I said, which was surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And whatever that is, whether if you're a lawyer, then hopefully you're working with lawyers that are smarter than you and you can learn something from them. And then when someone is less smart than you can hopefully teach them, right? And so that's the same for any business, is if you endeavor to grow. When I first started, I didn't just open up. I started with where I am now. That's my office that I actually rent to a couple other physicians some space because it's a big office, but primarily it's mine, and Vail is run out of there. It's the headquarters for Vail. I started with one room. And for years, people said you need your own office. But again, I wasn't that wasn't my goal, that I needed a shingle. I just wanted to heal. But in time, it was one room, then 2 rooms, and 3 rooms, and the whole thing. And, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for an aspiring entrepreneur. But you can see how some people, they graduate with law and they start with a firm. And then, they work their way through ranks, they become a partner, and then maybe they leave, do their own firm. So everybody's different on how they approach that. And so I would say, number 1, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. Number 2, be okay with change. And be okay with being uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable a lot. And what I mean by that is because of what I'm doing in all of these different facets of healing requires coming out of my normal sort of, okay, I know what I'm doing as a healer, and I may even know a little bit about what I'm doing on the motorcycle or in this or as a chef or that. But to do it professionally, to raise the money for the company, to pay the bills, to understand the business side of it, to deal with, sometimes attorneys and all these sort of things and laws and legal and all of these things, they're not comfortable aspects of doing what you love. So you have to be okay with occasionally being uncomfortable. And do the things that are going to help you through that process. So for me, like I said, I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm going through a big change, and I'm very uncomfortable, and the fear creeps in. I will read my devotionals. I will say my prayers. I will, do those things that, I won't grab the drug or the drink. Those are not times for that. Those are times to grow yourself spiritually and then I wake up and I'll do the physical stuff, and I might go to the beach and do my yoga, So I will say, remember that in discomfort is a time for growth, but it's in all aspects of growth, not just the external stuff that your goals are, but also internally grow yourself to become more and better. And if you're a family man, which, hopefully your success includes your family's well-being, and you're not just, because some people don't have all that. And this may not be for them, right? They may not need any of this knowledge, and because it's just them, and so you can do anything, and when it's just you. But if you've got people depending on you, and you've got, you're taking care of your mother, you're taking care of your sister, you're taking care of your kids, you're taking care of your wife, that fear and that discomfort is compounded and exponential. And you got employees, and you got, so the list goes on. So you're going to need to dig deeper and be more vigilant about all those things that help you go through that discomfort, but be okay with being uncomfortable. So that's 2. So what was the first one? Surround yourself with people smarter than you. Be okay with being uncomfortable, but manage it through proper growth tactics, methods, consciousness. And then I would say 3 that I've learned is aim higher. Don't be afraid to aim higher. When you have an idea, when you have a purpose, it's going to look differently to other people, and they're not always going to understand it. And so there's a saying, if you want to learn something, teach it. And so the more that you're able to convey your message and speak about it positively and share it with the right people, not the wrong people, because you got to be careful too. You got to be careful where you put your energy. But when you share it with the right people and you go over it, and that's going to be an enriching experience, because you're also going to see the chinks in the chain, and you're also going to see where you're right and you need to persevere, because you're going to see them feel, oh, I get it, and that this is worth it. And so, and when they feel that, it's gonna add to you. But yeah, be careful. I guess if there's a fourth, that be careful also surrounding yourself with the wrong people and the wrong energy, because manners maketh the man, but words also maketh the man. So be careful the words that come in your mouth and where those words go. I guess that's about it.
Yeah, well, one thing you said too that's so true, and I've learned a couple things that you said actually. One was knowing to say no, and two, niching down, knowing what you're good at and staying in that lane. And when you start kind of going into all these different areas that are not your specialties, is when you kind of find some problems.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been a big lesson.
Oh, 5. This one's for my wife. She reminded me this week, stay humble. And that looks different to different people, but I'll say that, and I get that. Always remember, stay humble. Doesn't mean like put yourself down. That's different. You don't want to put yourself down, but stay humble.
So you've achieved, a great level of success. I know your family's been featured in Jupiter magazine, and you got some great things going on. I know you're going to Hawaii to film this show, but when you look forward, even when you reach a certain level of success, you talked about aiming higher. So what's next? Where are you aiming for? What are you looking to do next?
It's interesting. With Vail alone, I just came back from Greece a few weeks ago, over a month now. But there's going to be projects with this app, and the Vail care provider has elements to it, unique proprietary software they've created and design and development that's going to be utilized by big longevity destination resorts. So that's going to be more travel. And so I would say bigger or aiming high is a global effect on health and wellness. When I started, very early on, I said I want to help millions of people every day. And obviously, as one person, that's hard. I've helped a lot of people, thank God. But there's got to be something that helps you to help others outside of your reach, and that's this. And I'm seeing it come to fruition because I'm meeting. When I was just in Greece, and the next location will be Switzerland, and so I would say that's huge. I would like to see Maximum Health end up, on a global streaming service. Your Netflix or HBO Max or any of those, Hulu, whatever. That would be great, and I would dedicate. I said to myself, I'll dedicate about 5-6 years to that, because it's hard work. Getting on a bike, going through the day, planning everything in between. I've got a great staff, about 7 people, between film, editing, location, legal, sound. And it's going to grow. But so I'd like to see that happen and be a very popular Emmy award-winning series. And I'd like the podcast to be, bigger and reach more people and interview. We have our interview with you coming up, and that's going to be wonderful to see how, you're sharing what I do from a business, and looking at the business and entrepreneurial perspective, but what you do with others and through your life of healing, I'm going to be bringing that to that audience, and that's a beautiful thing when people like us can do this. And, before all of these outlets, we would never have this opportunity, because everyone else, if you turn on your radio in your car now, they're talking just nonsense. I mean, the stupidest things, and I'm so happy you can just Bluetooth your phone and listen to whatever you want off your phone with no commercials and them trying to convince you or psychologically affect you and sell you things that are just old, archaic, stupid social concepts that have nothing to do with anything that's going to elevate us consciously as human beings. On occasion, you'll hear something funny, and that's cool. I love a good laugh. It doesn't always have to be serious or elevating, but there's just a lot of nonsense out there. So, that's, I think, some of the things I want to see my kids continue to grow, be successful. Do a lot of good family trips. One of the things I talked to him when Dad said he's going to do this, I was 49 at the time, about to turn 50, And I said, well, some of these locations you're going to go with me. We're going to do family trips. I'll do the shoot one day. And that's now where it's come to fruition. Hawaii is going to be that, where we're going as a family. I'll do a shooting one day, filming one day, but the rest of the days we'll be there, and they're going to join me at one location, like a cow farm, where they'll make chocolate, and they'll get to taste the chocolate and see their dad interview and see me at work for Maximum Health, Road to Wellness. So that'll be fun, but it took almost a year to get there, where I could do something like that and bring them. So it'll be nice.
Well, it's truly incredible, and I thank you so much for sharing your journey with our audience. This weekend, I've got a trip to Disney, and since your son has talked to my son so much about the Tower of Terror, we haven't done it yet, but this weekend is his first trip on Tower of Terror, so we're looking forward to that.
You know what? These things, this is what we live for, and you get to see them do these things for the first time through their eyes. You can't. It's just no better joy than that, right? He may never want to do it again, but but his first time will be with you. So that's beautiful.
Well, thank you again for being here, Dr. Gray.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Dr. Ken Gray, thank you for bringing your light and wisdom to today's conversation. Your commitment to healing the whole person, not just the symptom, reminds us all of the power of integrative care and intentional living. If today's episode sparked something in you, I encourage you to learn more about Dr. Gray at drkengray.com and check out Maximum Health Radio for even more insights. As always, keep shining your light.